Good morning, everybody. Hope you had a great weekend. Turn down the music a little bit here. Instagram is waking up. Good morning. I would love to know what you did this weekend. So if there's one thing that you could say that is a good word or phrase that describes your weekend, I'd love to know. Would you say rest? Would you say family? Would you say fun? Would you say running a bunch of errands? Would you say studying for the test? Like, what is your big takeaway from the weekend? How you spent your time, what you did with the space between Monday and Friday of every week that comes around all the time. I see you watching from Trinidad and San Antonio. Good morning. Studying for tests, babysitting grandchildren, studying. I was present with my husband. I moved into a beautiful home. Congratulations. Fervent. Come on, somebody who went to Fervent. Family fun in the rain. Painted my office. Galveston. Hi, Martha. You know that my kids are totally going to think it's weird that their mother does live things and that their science teacher is on watching. Yes, I know your love of water. Costco. I missed my Costco run yesterday. I'm in trouble. Started Bible school online. Awesome. Listened to one of my podcasts, The Farmer's Market. This is awesome. If you need ideas for what to do with your weekend, apparently the comments are a great place to start. Finishing your book. Awesome. That's great. Well, I want to welcome you to yet another Monday morning. I mean, who donned Crystal the welcomer of Monday mornings? Nobody. But I'm here. We're all here. So I'm going to welcome you to Monday morning. And I want to remind you that today is day one. Every day is day one. So you get to choose. If you didn't do what you meant to do yesterday or last week or last month or this year so far, then today's a good day to start. And there's no reason why you can't, because you're still here, you're still alive, you're still breathing. That means you still have an opportunity to choose. So don't waste that opportunity. I am really excited about the kickoff of our inner circle. And many of you have already emailed us to tell us, wait, I tried to go and it's not letting me do it. And I said, yeah, that's because it's closed. But don't worry. The entry level stays open all the time. So if you are interested in receiving bonus content from my podcast and little extras from videos, you can still sign up. But we're kicking things off for the group of women who said, hey, I want to work on 2021 in 2020. And we're excited about that. We have been asked more than a few times to open it back up. We'll look and see. And if we can, we will. But for right now, we had to close the doors to make sure everybody's in and in good. If you have not yet gotten your audio downloads of prayers for my new book, The 28-Day Prayer Journey, and if you picked up the book and you would like that, then I want to encourage you to go to crystalevanshurst.com/pray. And if you go there and let us know that you got the book, you can grab the audio prayers and listen, and hopefully you'll be encouraged. Now, y'all are watching in 3 different places. You are watching from Facebook, you're watching on Instagram, you're watching on YouTube. And I hear all the time, oh, I always miss you going live. I can't catch you going live. The easiest way to make sure you catch me when I go live, because it's always 7-ish, is to make sure that you are subscribed to my YouTube channel and that you've rung the bell so that you get notifications when I go live. B, if you're on Facebook, that you're following me on Facebook. You're not waiting for somebody else's feed to show you that I'm live, and that you've actually requested to receive notifications there. And C, if you're on Instagram, same thing. Are you getting notifications? So, and the way to make sure that you do see it is to engage and interact. So hit the like button or comment, because that tells all these social media places, oh, she actually wants to see what she posts. So when you do that, commenting is best. That helps too. But getting notifications is the way. Okay, so I want you to know that last week I interviewed Jamie Ivey. She just released a new book called You Be You. I love Jamie. We talked about what it looks like to bloom where you're planted. And so if you missed that episode, then check that out. Tomorrow, I'll be releasing an episode with Addison Bevere about identity. Y'all, so this is John and Lisa Bevere's son, and I had so much fun interviewing him. The Beveres are a really cool family, and Addison doesn't fall far from the tree at all. And so sometimes how we see ourselves has everything to do with whether or not we believe that we are who God says we are. And he does a great job of challenging you and me to understand what God says. And then how does understanding what God says change the way you walk through life? It was amazing. So I want you to make sure you check it out. Now, the way you make sure you don't miss any of my podcasts or any of the content that I want to share with you directly from me, like not hearing from social media, is to make sure that you are on my email list. And so the way that you do that is simply to go to crystalevanshurst.com/nothing, just crystalevanshurst.com. I'm so used to saying /. And right below the picture, you'll see a spot to drop in your email. So do that. Okay, but I want to launch into what I wanted to talk to you about today. Real talk about rest. So here's some real talk about rest. I am not necessarily always going to take rest when I need it. I'm a little bit of a workaholic. I'm a little bit of I'm a high capacity person who is wired to achieve, straight A student. Always wanted to know how I could earn the extra credit. Like it's my wiring. I actually don't require a lot of sleep. Like some people just require sleep. I don't require a lot of sleep. And so I'm often bamboozling myself with how much rest I actually need, whether that's sleep or just being still. I'm a push through person. I also am a survivor by operational hazard, meaning that when I was 19, I got pregnant with my first daughter. I was in college and I still finished school on time. And that was partially by my design, but partially by decision that I was going to finish. I was going to still prove to myself and to everybody else that I could do what I needed to do. So I practiced for a season of my life pushing through. Now, when you stack all of that together, when you stack natural persistent personality with a fairly high capacity, with many times in life where I felt the need to prove to myself and to other people that I could do it, rest sits on the back burner. I don't normally rest until I start to burn out. I will burn the candle at both ends of the wick until they smash together in the middle, and they teach me that you are not as full with capacity as you thought you were, because everybody needs to stop and take a break. Priscilla has jumped on Instagram. I've always been wired the opposite of my sister. You are totally correct. But truth be told, I do admire that about my sister, because she in a whole second will be like, I don't know, I'm not doing it. I don't know, whatever. One of the things I have said about Priscilla and my cousin Winter, both because they shared this similar wiring, is that they are able to work well from a place of rest, that things get done, books get written, Bible studies are created, children get dinner made, and all these different things. And I'm like, Priscilla, are you in the bed watching a movie? She's like, girl, yes, it's Saturday and I'm taking a break. And I'm like, in my brain, I'm like, well, all of the things that need to be done. So there is room, I want to say, in this world for you, however you are designed. And then there are people who are, for whatever reason, wiring or experience, who have capacity. Now listen, our stomachs, let me give you an example, are only so big. Now we can stretch them out or we can shrink them down by our activity. And if you do too much, you can damage. If you do too little, you can damage. But it's designed to stretch. It's designed to be accommodating. It's designed to fit what is needed in a certain season of your life. And so within boundaries, not stretching out too far and not shrinking back too far, shrinking back too much. We are designed to ebb and flow with the needs of our lives. Many of you are in a season where you are raising small children. This is a season where you might get less sleep, or you might do less outside activities, or you might keep what you're preparing for dinner super simple, or you might not be involved in that Bible study, or you might pull back from your involvement in this group or in this auxiliary. And this is a season for you to shrink back. It doesn't mean your capacity as a person is whack. It doesn't mean that you are less of a person. It means in this season, you're required to do less in one area so that you can do more in another area. Also, the same is true with our health. There are seasons with our health where we need to shrink back because we need to reserve the energy required for our health. Instead of doing all the things and losing all the sleep and staying so busy and having a high level of stress, we need to pull back. But there are seasons where you push forward. When you are in college and you are studying for finals, you push forward. You burn the midnight oil. You take the time to put in the effort to study for the test because you want to pass the test. And you don't live like that. It's a sprint. Marathoners don't run marathons every day. They build up for it, and on that day, they enlarge their capacity for a long run. The same is true of even the 400-meter run, the quarter. That's what I used to run in high school. That in the 800 and the 200, but the 400 was the race. You don't run at that speed that you run around the track for a 400 all day long every day. It is a decision in that area, in that season, from one starting line to the finish line, to put forth more effort to do what has to be done. There is an ebb and a flow. The trick in life is to only do what we need to do in the season that we're required to do it in, and to not get hooked, addicted, bamboozled, or misinformed about the pace that we're supposed to run. Now, here's the thing. We have to realize that when we throttle up, because there are seasons where you do need to throttle up, and when we throttle down, because there are seasons that we need to throttle down, that there is a rhythm of rest that should run through it. There is a rhythm of rest that should run through it. So I speak to you as a person who I have to be intentional about rest. Some of y'all have to be intentional about getting up off that couch. We all have our tendencies, but we have to look for what God is asking us to do in a given season of our life and throttle up or throttle down for that portion of the race that we need to run. Many of us have learned through COVID-19 because of the gift of not going to church, because in some ways, for some of y'all who volunteer for 5 million things, it was a gift not to have to go to church. It was a gift not to have to run your children around to all the sports. It was a gift to not have to deal with the traffic every day to work. You were still able to work, but you didn't have to deal with the commute every day. It was a gift. There are things that have been a gift. There have been challenges because some of us in this season have worked harder. I know some friends who are in the healthcare profession who have worked harder than they ever have before in this season, and they've totally lost touch with the ability to pull back because they're just exhausted. So this season has taught us all, whether we have had the opportunity to pull back or the opportunity, because listen, working and having the opportunity to work is great, to push forward in a season, we've kind of gotten off of our rhythm. So I wanted to have a little talk about rest and what's important. Now, my sister Priscilla has written a whole book about this. It's called Breathe. It's about Sabbath rest. And so I would encourage you to get your hands on that if you need to know what God says about Sabbath. I wanted to talk a little practically to you. There's also 2 podcasts that speak specifically about rest, that if you want to listen to more, and these are, my podcasts are free. There's over 200 episodes on my blog that you can check out, or you can go to iTunes, Stitfix, Google Play, Spotify, and just binge listen. But episode 234, Dr. Sandra Dalton Smith, she talked about healing through rest. And then I talked with a friend of mine, Ruth Chow Simons, and she gave me this phrase, rest is worship. And I talk a little bit about that in episode 61. So I want to encourage you to check those out. Now, rest. This idea of rest is not new. God took 7 days to create the world, but on the seventh day, a part of that creation work, he rested. He moved forward every day, did his best work, looked back and said, every day, this is good, this is good, this is good, this is very good, when he created man. And then on the last day, on the seventh day, he took a break, and he's God. What he was doing for us was setting an example. There are things in my life as a mother that I do for my children that I'm not doing because I need it. I'm doing it to set an example. Listen, I can sit in my closet, like I'm doing this morning. Y'all, my husband got on one of the lives last week, I think Thursday night. I didn't see him. Because I'm not always looking at the comments. And he said, "You didn't see me say hi?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Why are you in the closet?" It's like, I don't know, because I need to just get my space ready, and the space that I want to broadcast from on a regular isn't ready. And so until it's ready, why not? And he said, "Well, get that big orange thing out of the back of your background." It's like, it's my closet. Anyway, I could read my Bible in here. I could read my Bible, before my kids get up in the morning. And sometimes I do. I could, go into my office and read in there. But can I tell you that sometimes I intentionally crack open my Bible in the morning when my kids are awake so that I can demonstrate for them mom studying the word, that they can see what it is for mom to study the word, to set an example. I memorize scripture with my children. Some of the scriptures I already know, but when we go through the exercise of repeating scriptures together, I do that for them, with them, to illustrate. Okay, at my church, there are certain things I do in church, not because I have to, but because I'm setting an example. That's part of being a pastor's kid. You learn that. It's not that you're, lying about who you are. It's just you're setting an example, and it's okay. It's okay. And you're on the front row where everybody can see you. So there's that. And so there are some things I do, not because I'm not free, but because I realize that in my space, I need to set an example. God set an example for us. He didn't need the break. He's God. He said, "I'm going to show them what effective work is, that there are days where you cease." Ceasing is a part of success. And this is a hard message for me to talk about because it's not my norm. It's not easy. Anybody who works with me or for me can tell you ceasing is not my normal, natural place of operation. But what I believe with all my heart is that ceasing is a form of rest. Now, there are ceasing is a part of your success. Now, ceasing is not just being still and doing nothing. There are lots of different types of ceasing. And I want to talk to you about some of those to give you some practical ways, because y'all know I'm all about the practical of ways that you can realize what I'm talking about in your life. There are seasons of life where certain things have to stop. There was a season of my life where I was going to a mom's Bible study. And then the season stopped because my children, while they were small, I was also starting to homeschool a daughter, and taking her while I was going for a Bible study for moms of young children didn't work with our schedule anymore. That had to cease. Okay. There have been seasons in my life where I've said no to way more speaking engagements than I normally would have. But if I have a son who's a senior and I want to be present more than I typically am able to be with my travel, then I have to say no. Interviews, speaking engagements, television programming, and I hate it. I hate it. But what I have realized is that if you don't say no, when you come to the moment where you want to give a yes to something else, you'll regret not creating the space. One of the things that I have learned is that, and I shared this with you on last week's live, I did 2 of them if you missed them, is that if you're saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And sometimes saying no, anticipating your need for rest, you don't even know why you need it. You just know that you're going to be intentional about creating pockets of breathing in a future that you don't know what's coming, that you bake in the margin to the next minutes of your life. That you say, I don't even know how I need to spend the minutes. I don't know what God is going to put on my plate. I don't know what he's going to give me the opportunity to do. However, I know that I want space, and I feel that if I make this commitment, it's going to fill up space that I actually may need. I don't even know what I'm going to need it for. So ceasing can be in anticipation of the success that God is going to bring. My brother Anthony talks about clearing the plate. You can't be served the next course, the next meal, if you don't clear the leftovers of the meal that's in front of you. And I have to every day wrestle with what this looks like. But what I do know is my cousin Winter wrote 10 books in 4 years, and she took naps almost every day. I do know that over 25 years of ministry, my sister Priscilla has been extremely effective in what God has called her to do. And still, she doesn't pack her schedule in nonstop with a million things. And so while there is a different work for us all to do, I have been challenged to do a little bit less. And my sister would tell you, she's been challenged sometimes to do a little bit more. So there are seasons where rest ebbs and flows or where it looks different. But here's what I want to talk to you about specifically. The benefits of resting is you will be healthier physically. You will experience less stress, less of that cortisol pumping through your system. You will have the opportunity and the space to have deeper relationships, and relationships are healing. You will have the space for reflection. Have you ever wondered why it's not until it's quiet when all of a sudden you get the best ideas? It's not until you're in the shower when you remember the thing that's so important, and then you try your best to remember it until you get out of the shower, until you can actually execute on the thing. You want to know why you got the great idea? It's because your brain was still, because you gave your brain room to rest. What would happen if you lived like that you didn't just create space in 5-minute increments for reflection and God ideas and brilliant revelations? What if you ongoingly created that space, that you took the drive in the car with no noise, no radio, just to have the space, where you sat still early in the morning with a cup of tea, not doing anything, just to have that space? What would happen if you sat on your balcony of your apartment and watched the sunset for no reason, just because you were giving yourself that space? What if giving yourself the opportunity for reflection actually allowed yourself to receive, allowed you to receive the downloads that you need to be more effective in your everyday? It allows you to live with balance. It allows you to increase your production. One of the things that I'm telling my children right now, I have one kid who's just slow with getting his work done. And here's the thing. I told him every night, I was like, you got to go to bed. He's like, well, I've got about 2 more hours of work to do. Great. Go to bed and wake up in the morning fresh. I said, is it my imagination, son, that when you stay up at night to get the work done, that you are working with a lot less focus and it just takes you longer? But in the morning, because you have a deadline and you're fresh, you work faster and more efficient. He was like, you're probably right. Sometimes you want to be more effective and you're pulling all the stops to be more effective. And what you need to do is stop and pull in. So effectiveness is actually what you realize. Okay, so here are some areas in which you can rest. Okay, number 1, rest your lips. Stop talking. Just stop talking. The Bible says in James 1 that we should be quick to hear and slow to speak. Did you realize that talking takes energy? Like literally, your brain has to formulate the words to say. You're trying to make sure that you're communicating clearly. Literally, opening your mouth takes energy. What if you stopped talking and spent more time observing? What if you gave your tongue a break and was more careful about what you actually allowed to come out of your mouth? Yes, I love that. Jatina Latson Cole said, I love it. Let's practice the hush ministry. Not only will you expend less energy, you will hear better. Now, I'm a verbal processor at times, and sometimes that's how I work my way through something externally that's bottled up and bunched up internally. But if I'm honest, I say way too many words. Way too many words. When you're quiet and you're intentional about what does come out of your mouth, you're able to pay attention to what is coming out of your mouth and to realize if it's actually something you need to hear to indicate what's going on inside. Be quiet. Not only when you're quiet can it be an uncomfortable space where many thoughts may run rampant and you may have to discover what is really going on in your head, not just what you choose to say, but what's really going on in your head. But it'll help you to be more careful about the words that you say and what you share. Do you talk about it more than you actually spend time doing it? What if talking about it is stealing time from you actually taking action? What you share takes energy, and it steals your energy away from what you actually do. It also might steal your joy away if your talking is rife with complaining and negativity, gossip. Be quiet. And when you do talk, because as Maya Angelou said, words are living things, make sure that your words are worth sharing. And make sure that the words you share are shared with people that need the words. Everybody doesn't need your words. They don't need all your plans. They don't need all of your intentions. And most of the time, the processing that we need to do should be spent talking to God about it, not to people who can't do anything to help us. Now, I think that being a transparent leader, I think that being an authentic person, I think that being a connective mom and a friend, and that does involve communication. But for most of us, we actually talk too much because we think that the power is in our talking. And words do have power. But we are releasing that power into the world when some of that power needs to be reserved for actually doing the thing. We are releasing the power into the world, negative or positive, and a lot of that needs to be held until we have clarity, until God has spoken. So I want to encourage you to rest your lips. I also want to tell you that it's okay to grow slow. Tabitha Brown says that a lot. If you're a goal-oriented person, if you have dreams, if you have desires and you feel behind, keep working, keep waiting, keep praying on it, keep growing, keep developing, but don't rush it. Don't rush it. Take your time. Follow the crumbs. Take one step at a time. Because that's still how you climb Mount Everest. You go one step at a time. And the goals that you have require your creative power, and the creative power comes from stillness. You know, before God created the earth, he existed, but he wasn't creating the earth. And his explosive power, his explosive creative genius created everything that we see with his word. He spoke the word and everything came into existence. But before he spoke the word, he was swimming in his creative power. Being always comes before doing. And many of us, because we feel behind, we do too much, or we do too much together. And again, there are seasons for sprints. There are seasons for you to finish your college degree while you're raising kids. There are seasons for you to work hard on that business so that you can grow it. And you know, there's seasons for that. But what I'm saying is you have to look, and in those seasons, make sure you're making room for rest so that you're listening to your body, listening to your life, listening to the people who are important to you when they say to you, we need more time with you. And sometimes what we're putting into our goals, we don't have to put it all in the situation right now. You don't have to accomplish everything at once. You don't have to compare yourself to other women and to see what they've done, because you don't know what it's cost them. You never know. I like that, Breeding Mary. She said seasons have specific limits. Love that. Rest your lips. Rest your goals. One of my friends, Kat Lee, she's one of our Sister Circle encouragers, and she has done, I think it's if I might get it wrong, but it's either a 6-week push or an 8-week push. But there's the ramp up for the launch of a Bible study, and then they produce the Bible study, and then when the Bible study is over, then there's a break. And then they go back into the cycle. They produce it, they launch it, and then they rest. But the push always involves a rest. The week always involves a Sabbath. Your goals always have a season. They should come to an end. Even colleges know this. They kill the kids for a semester and then they give them a long break. So even with your goals, the things that are important to you, you have to build in the break. There's another friend of mine who wrote and my brain just went dead. She wrote The Happiest Marriage, or The Happy Marriage. Her brain will come, my brain will register. It just left my brain. But she and her husband, Keith, why can't I remember his name and not her name? But she and her husband, they practice Sabbath every Sunday. They turn off their phones. They don't work. And they literally just enjoy each other's company. Watch movies together, play games together. They don't have any children, never had any children. And she said, and I just delight in the beauty of relationship with my one. And she said, it's not that I couldn't work. It's not that the phone wouldn't ring. She said, but I have taught my people that we all need a break, and I value and set aside the space to rest. And she said, in the other 6 days, I work really hard. And she owns multiple businesses, and she's very successful. So it's possible to build things and to, at the same time, recognize growth. Fawn Weaver. Thank you, Emily Rhodes. Hey, Emily. Fawn Weaver. There you go. It's very possible to do that at a good pace. Because what happens if you make it early, but then you have to also leave the race early because you burnt yourself out? And that happens to a lot of people because they don't realize the impact. The Body Keeps Score is a book that I've been reading, and it's very intricate. It's an easy layman's read, but it also has a medical twist. And the reality is that everything that you do that impacts your physical body and the energy that you expend, everything emotional, everything physical, it's all interconnected. And we know this, and I'm studying that because of the book I'm currently writing. But here's the thing. Every stressor in your life takes energy, and we are all born with a limited amount. Here's what you need to understand. We're born with a limited amount. So if you rush your goals, you may get there sooner, but you may not be here as long to enjoy it. Or you may not be as healthy to enjoy it. So I need you to understand that we all have our days numbered. And while some of those days require higher expenditures of energy, a lot of us are burning ourselves out by not choosing to rest, choosing to have the space for perspective, choosing to understand that we are designed with rest in mind. The book is The Happy Wives Club from Fawn Weaver. Okay. Resting your soul, self-care, making space to do what you love, refilling your tank. You can only give what you have received. You can't teach if you haven't learned. You can't reap if you haven't sown. And while you can fake it until you make it, sometimes if you're faking it, it's not because you're making it through a hard season and you just need to wait until, the good feelings come back around. It's because you're faking it because it's not there to give. I want you to understand that your soul is a life force. You're not your body. Your body is definitely what carries your soul around, but you are not your body. You are your soul. And what your body does comes out of a healthy soul. The way you think, the way you process, the decisions you'll make, the relationships you'll take on, the relationships you keep, the relationships you won't let go of. It is a function of the health of your soul. If you don't believe you're worthy, you won't act like that. If you don't want people to see your soul, if you don't want people to see who you really are, you'll walk in shame. You'll shrink back. And often we're not walking in soul health because we're not giving our soul the room to rest and giving it the space it needs to get filled. Many of us girls don't even know what fills us up. We don't even know. And so as nebulous and as unclear as it might seem, part of the knowing is in the space to realize that there's something wrong. Some of us don't realize that there's something wrong because we don't give ourselves the space to know it. I've been thinking about this a little bit this morning. And so some of y'all have been following me or connected to me long enough to know that a few years ago, 2 years in a row, I had issues with my foot for a variety of reasons. And one of those reasons was because I had something going on the inside of my toe that was eating away bone. It's a long story. I was told I was going to have to get that amputated. I didn't. Thank God for doctors who are not quick to cut. But here's the thing. For a long time, there was a nagging soreness. And I could keep going. I could keep putting on my shoes. I kept speaking. I kept traveling. I kept momming. I kept doing all the things. But over time, that nagging got worse and worse, and the soreness was more and more, and the pain got greater and greater. And then there was a point where I couldn't ignore it anymore. And when I finally went and talked to the doctor, he asked me how long. Every doctor asked me the same question. How long have you been experiencing the pain? And the truth of the matter is, I didn't know. I really had to think back because it was there. I just wasn't paying attention to it. And I wasn't paying attention to it because, I'll be out in just one sec. I wasn't paying attention to it because I had convinced myself that nagging thing didn't need my attention. But I remember when I would sit down and think, I'm off my feet, I'm in the bed, I'm in a chair, I'm in a recliner, my foot shouldn't be hurting. I still, because I didn't do that very often, didn't make the space to notice there was something that needed my attention. This is what rest will do for your soul. If you do it consistently, you will begin to see what needs your attention. If you keep going, and if you keep going fast, it'll eventually get your attention, but it'll be when stuff is breaking down. It'll be when you have an emotional breakdown. It'll be when you can't think. It'll be when your relationships are crumbling. It'll be when you can't seem to balance everything. It'll be when stuff is going awry, but you don't have to wait until then. You can choose to live from a place of rest, to notice when striving is turning into straining, and to know when it's time to take a step back and reevaluate your priorities. And so rest is a big thing, and there are whole books written about it. Margin, a book by Richard Swenson, is an awesome book too. But here's what I need you to understand. You can practice rest by doing 3 simple things. By being quiet more, by looking at your goals and deciding to let something take longer to arrive at because you're going to build in pit stops, and to figure out how to rest your soul, to be still enough in your life to notice the pain points. Because here's the thing about life, if you don't rest, life will make you. And when life makes you rest, it's usually not good. It comes about in sickness, brokenness, mental tension, lack of mental health. It comes out in some way. So I need you to know that God created you with rest in mind. And this is the queen of, I struggle with this telling you that. So at the risk of sounding hypocritical, I also want to teach you what I know to be true and what I'm learning how to execute. And those are the things. I was in a meeting with Monique. Many of y'all have heard me talk about Monique. She's been around for 5 years and she has put up with a lot of my craziness. Thank you, Monique. And we were having a meeting the other day and I could not. There were 2 questions and I just was like, I don't know. And I found myself saying a lot, and she can attest to that. I need to sleep on it. I will have clarity in the morning. And clarity does come. So breathe. And if y'all are paying attention to the comments, you see all the women who are saying, yep, if you don't rest, it'll catch up with you. And they're talking about how that comes out in their physical health. It's going to come out eventually. If you take a water balloon and you put it under a water faucet and you keep filling it, it can stretch, but it can only stretch so far before it bursts and water goes everywhere. You were designed to stretch. God has created you with this crazy capacity for living, for doing awesome things, for being that wife, that mother, that coworker, that business owner, that teacher, that health professional, for being that PTA director, for being that senator or that community manager. You have been created with work in mind. God spent 6 days working. But if you forget about the component of rest, you are doing yourself a disservice and you will stretch, but then eventually you will break. And the mess will go everywhere. So, be quiet today. Take a goal that's on your plate and maybe stretch it out. Find places in your life, times in your life to be still. Turn off the noise and listen. Obviously, my kids are calling me, which means they're ready for me. And I started late this morning, so I'm going to go and take care of my family. I'm going to see my boys off to their homeschool class today, and then I'm going to sit in a quiet house and do exactly what I'm telling you to do today. Have a great day, and I will see you next Monday. Y'all have a great day. Bye.